In the last couple of months, I have gotten some questions and comments about how I became a detection engineer at Datadog, and that made me to actually realize that I actually never made a video about that, even though I have been making videos about my journey in cybersecurity over the last 2 years as an 18-year-old up until this point. So I figured I might as well just make a video about how I became a detection engineer at Datadog. And with that being said, if you're new here, my name is Day, and on this channel I talk about cybersecurity, cloud security, and other life stuff. And if you want to see more content like this, please be sure to subscribe if you're new subscribed, like the video, and comment down below for the algorithm. It really helps with the channel. That being said, let's get into my life story. So this dates back into 2019 when I was just getting to college. I was this little 17-year-old who was like, I took a gap year from high school because I graduated high school early at 16. So got into college 17 and was majoring in cybersecurity because I didn't want to do software engineering. I tried coding out and I was like, I don't think I want to do this as a full-time job. So I started doing cybersecurity as a college student. Freshman year was just like covering the basics, right? Different classes, but this is around when the pandemic hit, right? So this was like ending of 2019, start of 2020, and I had lost my job. At this time, I was working at a warehouse, and I knew that I wanted to start working in the industry, and I also wanted to start getting experience in the field. So I was like, I wanted to find internships or entry-level help desk positions, but I really don't have any qualifications at this time. So I started looking into certifications. So I looked into taking the CompTIA A Plus because I had just taken a CompTIA A Plus class, the first semester of college. And I was like, I should be able to attempt this exam and pass this exam. And back then, I felt like with a CompTIA A Plus, I can apply for help desk positions and start my career that way. So I went ahead and attempted to come to A plus, and when I attempted the exam, I failed, unfortunately. And I actually made a video about that. I'll link it somewhere on the screen. You can check it out. And this was a little bit devastating, but I decided to try again. Took a couple more months to study for the A plus again, passed the A plus, and then this is where like my personal study journey really began. I was spending a lot of time studying for certifications, doing labs on my own, because I felt like the information I was getting from my classes were not really enough for me. And if I really want to, build a career outside of college and start getting experience, start working in the field, then I can't really rely on what I'm being taught, only what I'm being taught in school. So this is what really sparked my interest in like really learning on my own and developing myself on my own. So at this time, again, I was also taking, this was second semester of college, so I was taking a Network Plus class, which was about 8 weeks, and then after that, I took a CCNA class as well. So like it was back-to-back networking. So the CCNA class was actually really good. I learned a lot from the class that I still retain and I still use now. As a matter of fact, I am currently a tutor at that community college that I went to, and I am actually tutoring Network Plus, A Plus, Security Plus. But all of that knowledge has helped me up until this point. This is also when I started understanding that networking is really, really important for cybersecurity. And by the way, I know all of this information might sound irrelevant, but it actually applies to the end of the story. So please make sure you keep listening. So I started studying for the Network Plus after taking my CCNA class because I felt like going from A plus to CCNA would be like a really big jump. So I was like, let me go for Network Plus since I'm already on the CompTIA trail. So I studied for the Network Plus. Took me about a month, but this was like a period where I was like really grinding. Right, pandemic. I wasn't working, no job, no responsibilities. I wasn't going out, so I was studying every day. So constantly studying. Took the Network Plus, passed it on my first attempt. Still hold a lot of those networking concepts really close because like you just use them every day, right? So networking is a really strong core of my background, in security. And then around this period of time, this was between like April and August, I was actively applying for internships and for jobs and help desk positions. And so I applied for multiple positions, like a ton of positions. So I applied for upwards of 150 positions. I got only 5 interviews, and out of those 5 interviews, I got only one offer. So let me tell you about this offer. This was the offer for my very first ever cybersecurity internship right before the end of freshman year. So I had flubbed multiple interviews. I knew I was horrible. I was bad at interviewing. So I decided to build that skill, right? So what that meant was taking questions and standing in front of a mirror and rehearsing them, right? Because I really was at that time, I wouldn't consider myself a very confident person. I didn't really have strong social skills. I've only built that up over the last 2 years, but back then, if you know me, like, you know that I wasn't the best in social settings, to say the least. But this required me really building that skill, being able to communicate what I know, because the problem wasn't that I didn't know anything. The problem was I didn't know how to communicate those things. And also, like, I just hadn't had much experience with interviews. So I worked on those skills, was able to communicate my knowledge at this interview. I was like, I'm gonna kill this, right? I actually made a video about this. I wore a suit, wore a tie, everything. Like, I was like, I am going to kill this. So went into the interview, was prepared, interviewed, and then after the interview, I actually sent a follow-up email to the 3 people that interviewed me, because it was a panel. And they liked that I interviewed very well, but I also liked it more the fact that I sent a follow-up email going over certain things that I didn't understand in the interview, or I didn't answer well, and just reviewing all over those things. So all of those things really came together to really help me succeed and eventually get the internship. So right before the end of freshman year, started an internship. It was a 6-month internship. It was a 6-month offer. So I started an internship, and my first day of the internship, I went into the office, and the security engineer I was reporting to actually gave me the Security Plus textbook. I still have that textbook on my bookshelf, and it was like, hey, take this book. I'm giving it to you. Read this book. It's gonna help you with the internship. I personally already had plans on taking the Security Plus, because I was already, on the CompTIA trail. A plus, Never plus, Security Plus. That's how it goes. So I was like, okay, we'll take the Security Plus. So I took this book, read this book cover to cover, took like 2 Udemy courses, and also took Professor Messer's course. I have videos on my entire CompTIA journey. I could link them in the description or somewhere up there, or you can just check them on my channel. That's an entirely different story. But I studied for the Security Plus, passed it in about 2 months. And what also helped was the fact that a lot of things that I was learning from the Security Plus were also being applied daily at my internship. So like, I was working daily, doing all of this stuff. I was working with Azure. This was actually my first ever introduction to cloud. I was working with like Exchange servers. I was working with PowerShell. I was working with like phishing analysis, a little bit of malware analysis, Active Directory auditing, authentication auditing, different things. So I was getting a very wide scope of experience, and this was really, really helpful for me in understanding the concepts I was reading in my Security Plus, and also like in those Udemy courses. So that was really, really beneficial for me. And mind you, at this point, this was like start of sophomore year of college. So I was also taking classes. So it was a really crazy period for me, because I would have my internship from like 7 a.m. in the morning to like midday, and then do school on the side as well. Thankfully this time school was remote, so like I could really like mix things in. So this is also a period whereby I started learning how to like combine multiple things together. So ever since I've been in cybersecurity, I have been combining school alongside cybersecurity. I'm about to graduate later this year, but over my entire college career, I've always been working full-time. So that's really helped me gain experience and also like get a college degree at the same time. But this internship was about 6 months. In this 6 months, I was learning a ton of things in the internship, but also on my own. Aside from passing the Security Plus, I was building my own home lab. I was doing labs online. I was really, really, really working on building myself, because I found that this is a great opportunity, and I really wanted to get a summer internship actually. So I was like, I really, really need to like study, build my skills more to leverage this opportunity to get a summer internship, even though I might have gotten a return offer from this company. So I did get a bunch of interviews for a summer internship, but none of them actually really came to fruition for different reasons. But at the same time, I did get an interview for a full-time security analyst position at a cybersecurity company at MSSP here in Dallas for a SOC analyst. And I was like, I could actually possibly do this. I mean, I already do my internship almost full time and school full time. Maybe I might be able to like mix these things together. So went ahead to interview and I did well in the interview and I got the offer for my first ever full time position, like literally 6 months after my internship. And to me, it was mind blowing, but all of this was not by accident. Like I'd really been putting in all of this work right from the start of my internship, like every single day studying, plus school, plus everything else I was doing. Because I was also like a musician in my church, so I played the piano. So I had a lot of commitments at this time, but I was always studying. Everyone who knows me or who knew me at that time, on social media or even in person, knew that I dedicated my life and my time to just studying. So this really, really helped me convert a 6 month internship into my first full time position. So got this first full time position. It was fun, really great people that I'm still in contact with. I learned a ton. For me, I was like, this is a great opportunity to start learning a lot, right? I was able to learn a lot from my internship. I could also learn a lot from this first full time job. So I was working there, learning a lot, learning about Sims. This is when I got into working with Sims, working with EDRs, like endpoints, working with like host analysis. I did a little bit of network analysis with Wireshark. So like I was learning a ton of things, and same thing. I kept the same work ethic, right? Beyond what I was just learning at the job, I would go back home, learn about more things, build my skills out of that. This is also around the period, I believe, when I got my CYSA Plus, when I also got a bunch of other certifications. I got the Splunk Certified Core User as well. I got the Azure Fundamentals. So this was a really exploratory phase for me because this was like barely 1 year into cybersecurity. I'm talking about 6, 7, 8 months. And I'm like, I will learn as much as I can. Anything that I know is going to help me in my job. So one of the reasons why I learned Azure was because I had used Azure in my internship, and I was also some of our clients at the SOC, had Azure. As a matter of fact, they had all kinds of environments. So I was like, it would be good to start learning about the cloud. So keep that in mind because now I work in cloud detection engineering. So all of these things actually played into eventually getting to where I'm at. So I spent a couple of months at this position, but like it just really wasn't the right place for me, to be honest. So at a really early point, in the position, I started looking for other positions. And at this point was around the period where I actually met my mentor. I actually met my mentor the year before, and there was a position opening at his company where he was the lead threat analyst. You guys might know my mentor, one of my mentors actually. He's a textual chatter on YouTube, so definitely check out his channel. Subscribe to him, really great guy. Been one of my mentors from day one, so shout out to him. So refer me for the position. Of course, if you refer someone, you can interview them. So like this is not a kind of thing whereby he referred me and like I just got him. So I got interviewed by the SOC manager as well as another senior analyst. And in this case, I actually did well in the interview. Literally the day after the interview, they called me with the offer, and I was like, yeah, I really love this. This was a bigger company, opportunity for a lot more experience, a bigger client. So it was just one client I was focusing on this new company, and I knew like this was gonna be really big for me. I was gonna work with Splunk as well. I hadn't worked with Splunk in a professional setting, so this was gonna be big for me. So I was like ready to jump on this opportunity. So got into this company, working with a really massive Fortune 50 client, just like immediately get thrown into work. So like started learning about Splunk, started learning about like different EDRs like Tanium, learning about CrowdStrike, learning about different things. And this new client actually had like different environments. So they were using AWS, they were using Azure as well. So this was really getting me more and more intrigued with cloud. So this time I had actually started my WGU degree, which is also part of this. So between like the time I ended my community college program, which I didn't graduate from because I didn't feel the need to, I started my WGU program in network operations and security, which I had a video about. I can leave a link to it somewhere in the screen or down below. Tons of videos about all of these things in my journey that I would recommend checking out to really put the pieces together. But I started at WGU, so WGU's network operations program makes you do the AWS Cloud Practitioner. So I had the opportunity of taking this certification. I took it, really got me more interested in the cloud. I played around with the AWS environment. Even though I had been analyzing like CloudTrail logs in Splunk for a while, it was also kind of fun to kind of, play around with the environment itself in real time. So it's got me a lot more intrigued with cloud. So I started learning more about cloud. I started like playing around with cloud, and I actually made the resolution to transition into cloud in 2022, which is this year as we speak. So at this time, like, I was doing everything I could to, like, make a plan to eventually start working in cloud the next year. So I actually even made a video about my plans for 2022, where one of my goals was to transition into cloud by the third quarter of 2022. So I was going to do certifications, do trainings, do labs, and I was already working on all of these things at this very point. This is about second quarter, third quarter of 2021, and I was already, making all these plans, studying all these things, building all these skills, because I really wanted to get into cloud. I thought it was interesting. I really loved like working with like that. I just really loved the abstraction of it, and also because it was a hot and growing field, and I felt like security in the cloud would be really fun. So I was really working on this. And so at this point, at the same time, I got recommended by a senior analyst to apply for a senior analyst position that was opening up for a new client. And I was a little, surprised, because I was like, I've only been here for about 4 months, but they thought I was, good, and I was really doing well, that they would recommend me for that senior analyst position. So I was like, yeah, I might as well just apply for the position, because it was an internal position, and then I might get to work with a new client, and also get promoted. So that would be fun. So that is to say that even up until this point, still putting in the work, still like making sure like I'm learning on my own. I'm talking about just about a year in cybersecurity, and like this already happened. So I applied for the position. I interviewed. I must say it was like one of the most brutal interviews I've ever had in my entire life. It's about 2 hours. I wouldn't say it was fun, but they drilled me. Like, they really drilled me. But they were really impressed with my skills, but they didn't think I had enough experience to actually be a senior analyst. So I got promoted, but not to senior analyst. I got promoted to analyst 2. So in the tier systems and engineering companies, or most modern companies, there's like a tier system. So analyst 1, analyst 2, or engineer 1, engineer 2, then senior engineer, and the list goes on and on. So I got promoted to analyst 2, which is right before senior analyst, and this was really great for me. It was awesome. I'd only been there for about 4 months, but I got promoted, and also I would start working on a new client. This new client was also really great for me, because they also had an Azure environment, so I would be working with like Azure's cloud. Awesome, right? So everything is just aligning at this point, right? Everything's working together, because like I've set the goal, made the plans, put in the effort, put in the work. So every time an opportunity came, I was always ready for it. So at this point, again, I still knew at the back of my mind that I'm working towards getting to cloud in 2022. So one of my connections on LinkedIn, who had previously tried to get me to their company, posted a position, which was Datadog, right? He had previously tried to talk to me about like an internship position earlier in the year at Datadog, but at this time I just got an offer for the current position I had, which was the threat analyst position. So I was like, hey, maybe like we can circle back another time or whatever. So he had posted a position for like a cloud detection engineer on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, this actually looks really interesting, right? I might not have all the skills, but I will be interested in learning more about this position. So I reached out to him. We spoke, kind of told him my experience, but this position wasn't an actual good fit for me, because I was upfront. I was like, hey, I actually don't have the skills required for this position. But it was like, oh, there actually will be more positions in the future, so like just let me have your resume, and then we'll take a look at it later on in the line. This is coming towards the end of the year, end of 2021. So this is like November, December, whatever. So start of the year, January 2022 of this year, the interview process kicks off, right? So I started interviewing for a detection engineering position at Datadog. Got referred by this person, who was going to be my manager. Best manager I've ever had, in my entire career. I will always put it out there. He's also my mentor, so like really great guy, really awesome guy. Not the other mentor, another mentor. So I've had various mentors at different stages of my life. So, but yeah, shout out to him. So started the interview process. It was quite a bit of a lengthy interview process. I did a dog, but I would say this interview process, I always tell people like this was the one interview process that I went through that made the most sense, aside from CrowdStrike. So I did an interview at CrowdStrike the year before, and CrowdStrike made a lot of sense. Like it was very practical. Like I've had interviews that were just like didn't make any sense because it was like what you're asking me doesn't actually correlate with the position, and it's just like a bunch of like BS. So aside from CrowdStrike, the Datadog interview was very practical. Like it literally applied to what I was going to be doing at the job. No, no BS. Just cut straight to like, do you know this? Do you know this? Do you know that? And everything turned out right. I did about a couple of interviews. I don't want to put the number out there just to not sound discouraging. To me, it wasn't discouraging. It was in the beginning, but like it made sense. So I don't want to discourage anyone out there. The interviews are great if you know what you're doing, if you understand what you're doing. So like the number of interviews doesn't really matter, to be honest, if it makes sense. So did the interviews, everything turned out right, and eventually got the offer to work at Datadog as a detection engineer on the Cloud SIEM product. We have a bunch of products, so it's like product based. So that's like the entire chopped up story from 2019 to 2020 to 2021, last year to 2022 when I did the interview, and now working at Datadog. By the end of this month, I would have been 6 or 7 months at Datadog, so that's super exciting. I've been learning a lot. I really enjoyed there. It's great. It's awesome. Great teammates, great work. Like the work I do actually has impact, and it's awesome that I was able to get into cloud security at such an early point in the year when I was actually planning for the third quarter. And what was actually crazy was in the earlier point of the year, I was interviewing with AWS for a cloud position, but it wasn't security related. But like God just worked things out that, everything just happened according to his time. And, I found myself in Datadog. So where I want to bring this story to an end is just highlighting working consistency. One thing I really value is consistency. I think all of the opportunities and positions that have worked out for me up until where I'm at now have been as a result of consistency and being ready for each opportunity that came at each point in time. So that's what I'm going to leave everyone with. I hope this answers the questions of everyone who wanted to know about how I became a detection engineer at Datadog. If you have any more questions, put them in the comments down below, and I'll be happy to answer them. With that being said, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.